kept in sequence at the corner of a square. So now I am taking the square like this. M, 2m, 3m, 4m. Side is A. Now, the magnitude of the gravitational force acting on a particle of mass m placed at the center of the square will be, and here the center is present. At the center, again they considered one more mass, that is small. At this m, we need to calculate, at this center, we need to calculate the net gravitational force. So for that purpose, here I'm taking the directions of forces which are influencing the center. Okay, now this small m, actually this is the victim. Why? Because where we need to calculate the net gravitational force. Where we need to calculate the net gravitational force. Where we need to calculate the net gravitational force. At that point, whatever the mass is present, that is the victim. That is the victim. So this only moves. This small m at the center, which is at the center, moves towards small m like this direction, and this is f1 bar, f1 bar, and again this small m moves towards 3m, and this is I am taking it as f2 bar. Now this is a, and this is also a. Then the diagonal is root 2a diagonal. Diagonal is root 2a, but I required the distance between the corner to center. This I am taking it as small d. This is also small d. So in the diagonal, I need to take half. So small d is equal to what's the value? Diagonal by 2. Then small d is equal to, what is the diagonal? Root 2a by 2. Then diagonal is equal to, 2 can be written as root 2 into root 2. Then I am taking it as a by root 2. A by root 2. Okay. Now, we need to calculate the, what we need to calculate? We need to calculate the net gravitational force at the center. Center is nothing but here I am taking it as O. At center, I need to calculate the net gravitational force. So for that purpose, here I am taking the part it as D is equal to what's the value? A by root 2 from center to corner. Now at first, F1 is equal to G, M and M square by, what is the distance? D square. Next, F2 is equal to G, what is the mass? 3m and m. 3m into m, 3m square by d square. How these two are? These two are in opposite direction. So here I am taking that F1 dash is equal to the net force of F1 and F2. What is the F1 dash? Net force of F1 dash and, sorry, net force of F1 and F2. So F1 dash is equal to, what's the value? F2 is greater here, F2 minus F1. Then F1 dash is equal to F2 G m square by d square. In the F2, G m square by d square is present. In the F1 also, G m square by d square is present. Take out as common. 3 minus 1. Then F1 dash is equal to 2g m square by d square. 2g m square by d square. This is F1 dash, resultant of F1 and F2. So in which direction this is? Among F1 and F2, which one is greater? In F1 and F2, which one is greater? F2 is greater. Why? Because here 3 is present, here only 1 is present. So 3. That's why where the magnitude of the force is greater, in what direction the magnitude of the force is greater, along that direction the resultant force also acts. So among F2 and F1, F2 is greater. So the resultant of F1 and F2, the resultant of F1 and F2 also along the direction of F2 bar, along the direction of F2 bar. Why? Because the magnitude of F2 is greater. So along that direction, the resultant force can act. Okay. Now, next, I'm taking another one. This 2m, 2m. This m, at the center, m is present. This m along again acts towards, again moves towards 2m. And this I am taking it as F3 bar. F3 bar. Okay, now, and again, this M tries to move towards 4M also again. And this is F4 bar. F4 bar. Again, see here, F3 and F4 both are in the opposite direction. Again, opposite direction. At first, I am taking F3 is equal to G. F3 means what? In between M and 2M. And that's why 2M square by, what is the distance from corner to center? D only, D square. Then F4 is equal to, F4 is equal to, what's the value of F4? Again, G, G, okay. Now 4M and again M, 4M, M, 4M into M, 4M square by D square. Then the resultant here I'm taking F2 dash. F2 dash is the resultant of F3 and F4. Again, F3 and F4 in what direction? These two are opposite. And that's why F4 minus F3. Why? Because F4 is greater. So here 4 is present, here 2 is present. So now Gm square by D square, take as common. In this 4 minus, in this what's the value? 2. And that is equal to F2 dash is equal to 2G m square by D square. In which direction this is? Among F3 and F4, which one is greater? Among F3 and F4, which one is greater? F4 is greater. And that's why along F4 bar. Okay, see, now again I'm drawing one more diagram. Square, here M, 2M, 3M, 4M, and it is the center. Same diagram, once again I repeated. It is the center. Okay. Now, F1 dash, replace F1 and F2 with F1 dash. Why? Because F1 dash is the resultant of F1 and F2. So, replace F1 and F2 with the F1 dash. In which direction? F2 bar. Where is the F2 bar? F2 bar is like this. F2 bar is like this, towards 3M. So that's why this is F1 dash. Now, what about F2 dash? F2 dash is along F4. So where is the F4? F4 is towards 4M. F4 is towards 4M. And that's why here I consider like this again. Now, instead of F1, F2, F3, F4, F1, F2, F3, F4, for all the four forces, here I consider the resultant only two, F1 dash and F2 dash. Now, what is the angle between these two, F1 dash and F2 dash? 90 degree. 90 degree. So, here the resultant of F1 dash and F2 dash is the net force acting at the center. Net force acting at the center. So I need to calculate the net force here right now. That is our answer. F net is equal to root over only two forces. Angle is 90 degree. So F1 dash square plus F2 dash square. F1 dash is nothing but what's the value? 2gm square by d square. F2 dash is nothing but F1 dash is 2gm square by d square. F2 dash is also 2gm square by d square. Third term is not valid. Why? Because theta is equal to 90 degree here. Perpendicular, 90 degree. The angle between F1 dash and F2 dash is 90 degree. So here P square plus Q square plus 2PQ cos 90. Cos 90 is 0. So P square plus Q square. F1 dash square plus F2 dash square. So both the values are same. F1 dash is equal to F2 dash. So 2gm square by d square whole square. 2 times repeated this is. So 2 into, sorry, 2 into. Now 2 twos are 4. 2 twos are 4. So 4 take out from the square root, and that is nothing but 2, and then this is root over gm square by d square whole square. Why? Because p square plus q square, no, p square plus q square, p square and q square, p is equal to q, so 2 times repeated. So 1 2 square came out, that is 2 from the square root, and gm square by d square also came out from the square root. Why? Because it is a square, square and root get cancelled, and further 2, there is no square here, and that I am writing it as root 2. That is equal to root 2 g m square by d square. Okay, now observe carefully. F1 dash and F2 dash both are same values. F1 dash and F2 dash both are same values. So if you apply the parallelogram law of vectors, root over p square plus q square, root over p square plus q square. See here. Root over p square plus q square. It means what? Root over p means what? G m square by d square, plus q means what? G m square by d square. So both the things are repeated. Third term is 0. Why? Because 2pq cos theta cos 90 is 0. Third term is 0. 2 root over 2 times repeated, no? P square whole square, q square whole square. Okay, now this is p nothing but f1 dash here, q nothing but f2 dash here. So now 2 times repeated, 2 into g m square by d square whole square, whole square. Why? Because for everything square is present, whole square is present. If you take out the square root this square, then that is g m square by d square, g m square by d square. Okay, now in this 2 we have 2 gm square by d square, here also 2 gm square by d square, here also 2 gm square by d square. Why? Because f1 dash 2 gm square by d square. Now this 2 gm square by d square take out from the square root, and for the 2 there is no square, and that's why as it is you consider the root 2. Now the answer is 2 root 2 gm square by d square. That is equal to f net is equal to 2 root 2 g m square by d square. D is equal to what's the value? D is equal to a by root 2. So a by root 2 whole square, that is 2 root 2 g m square, root 2 whole square 2, that goes to numerator, by a square. 2 2s are 4, 4 root 2 g m square by a square, 4 root 2 g m square by a square. This is the net force acting at the center. This p square root over p square plus q square, f1 dash whole square plus f2 dash whole square. Just substitute f1 dash value and f2 dash value in this equation, then you will get the final answer like this. Okay. Another problem? how much above the surface of Earth does the acceleration due to gravity reduces 36% of its value on the surface of Earth? So here the acceleration due to gravity reduced at certain height. At certain height. What is that height? That we need to calculate. So at first, G1 is equal to G. G2 is equal to how much reduced? 36%. In the 100, initially you consider as 100. In the 100, reduce 36. 100 minus 36. What's the value? 64%. So 64 G by 100. We need to write 64 G by 100. Or otherwise you can write like this also. No problem. Now in the first case, if the acceleration due to gravity is G1, what is the radius? R1. If the acceleration due to gravity is G2, what is the radius? R2. R2 is nothing but what? At certain height, the body is present. So from what height the body is present from the surface of the planet? H height. So the total is nothing but what's the value? R plus H from the center. From the center. From the center to the surface, or surface to the some height is H. Total height from the center is nothing but R plus H. Apply the formula. G is equal to Gm by R square. What is the relation between G and R? G is inversely proportional to R square. G1 by G2 is equal to R2 by R1 whole square. Now with that, G1 is nothing but Z. G2 is nothing but 64G by 100. Just now we consider that 64G by 100. Now R2 is nothing but what's the value? R plus H by R1 is nothing but R whole square. GG get cancelled. Moves to numerator and then 100 by 64 and then remove the square root. Then root 100. Remove the square and this side you will get the square root. Root 100 is nothing but 10. Root 64 is nothing but 8. 10 by 8 is equal to, if you take the square root and then square can be cancelled, R plus H by R. Cross multiplication, 10R is equal to 8R plus 8H. Then 8R send that side. 10R minus 8R, 2R. 2R is equal to 8H. Then R is equal to 4H. I need to calculate the H. H is equal to what's the value? R by 4. At this H R by 4, H is equal to R by 4, the acceleration due to gravity reduced by 36%. Another problem? To find the percentage decrease in the weight of the body, when taken to a depth of 32 km below the surface of Earth. Find the percentage decrease. See this model. Observe. We know one formula, that is Z dash is equal to G into 1 minus D by R related to the depth. Whenever, remember carefully, whenever percentage decrease or percentage increase, if you want to find out, in the denominator, always the initial value should present. In the denominator, always the initial value should present. So here we are taking the concept it as, listen, G dash by, take this G as cross multiplication, by Z is equal to 1 minus D by R. Percentage decrease, it means here the weight decreases. Weight depends on what? Acceleration due to gravity. So if the acceleration due to gravity decreases, weight again decreases. If the acceleration due to gravity decreases, the weight of the body decreases. So it means decreases means what? Initial value is greater, final value is lesser. Loss means what? Initial amount is greater, final amount is lesser. Then only we call it as loss. Loss itself is called decrease here. So G is initial value. This should be greater than the final value, Z dash. So it means percentage decrease. In this case, we need to consider like this: higher value minus lower value. For that, both sides you have to do 1 minus. You have to do 1 minus. Why? Because for taking initial minus final, both sides I need to take 1 minus. This is one model. Okay. Now LCM is G. G minus G dash by G is equal to 1 minus of minus 1 minus into minus plus D by R. Why we consider 1 minus both sides? To not alter the value. If both sides, if you do 1 minus, 1 minus 1 minus get cancelled again, then you will get the same value as it is above. So by taking the 1 minus, what I will get here? Initial value is G, final value is G dash, G minus G dash I got here. For that purpose, here I am doing both sides 1 minus. Now, G minus G dash is nothing but what's the value? Delta G, change in gravity, by G. 1 minus 1 get cancelled, D by R. I need to calculate, this is one formula, delta G by Z is equal to D by R. Delta G means the difference between the two gravities. Okay, now I need to calculate percentage change. Delta Z by Z into 100 is equal to D by R into 100. What is the D value here? 32 kilometer below. 32 kilometer below. Okay. So now 32 kilometer by, what is the radius of the earth? Radius of the earth 6,400 kilometers into 100. Two zeros get cancelled. 32 ones are 32 twos are. 1 by 2 is nothing but 0.5%. 1 by 2 is nothing but what's the value? 0.5%. How much decrease takes place? 0.5%. That is delta G by G into 100. Percentage decrease in the weight. So in general, weight is nothing but mass into gravity, no? So if we consider here mass into gravity, mass can be cancelled. Mass can be cancelled. And that's why here I didn't consider the m value. Straight away I considered by using the gravity only, I found the answer. Okay. This is another problem. The height at which the value of acceleration due to gravity becomes 50% of that of the surface of the earth. So again, previously I considered the depth concept. Now I consider the height concept. So as you know well, GH is equal to G by R plus H whole square. So G by nothing but, if you want to take GM, capital GM by R plus H whole square. From this we consider that GH is equal to small g by 1 plus H by R whole square. Already I said this formula to you. GH is equal to G by 1 plus H by R whole square. If you want to calculate the percentage change in case of height, use this formula. GH is equal to G by 1 plus H by R whole square. With that, GH by G as it is same, 1 by 1 plus H by R whole square. So now here, if go on increasing the height, what happens to the acceleration due to gravity? Decreases. Again same, both sides I am taking 1 minus GH by G, and here also I am taking 1 minus 1 by 1 plus H by R whole square. Now G minus GH by G is equal to 1 minus 1 by 1 plus H. What is the height? 50%. We need to calculate height only, no? So H by R whole square I consider like this. In the problem, g minus gh, that is nothing but delta g by g into 100 is equal to 1 minus 1 by 1 plus h by r whole square. In the problem given that gravity becomes 50%, 50% of the surface of earth. So it means what? Delta g is nothing but 50%, 50 g by 100. Delta g by g into 100 value is given. What's the value of that? What's the value of that? 50%, 50 by 100. Total value is given. Percentage change, 50% here. So I consider 50 by 100 is equal to, this entire value is 50%. 50%. Okay. 1 minus 1 by 1 plus h by r whole square. 51 sir, 52 sir. Now, so here this minus term take this side, it became as plus. Thereby here you will get it as, see, this minus term take this side, that became as plus 1 by 1 plus h by r whole square is equal to this 1 by 2, take that side, 1 minus 1 by 2, here already 1 is present, plus 1 by 2, take that side, minus 1 by 2, 1 by 1 plus h by r whole square is equal to, what's the value? 1 by 2. 1 minus 1 by 2, what's the value? 1 by 2. Now here see that 1 1 numerators are same, so the denominators also same. 1 plus h by r whole square is equal to 2, or reverse the term, then you will get this, okay. Now 1 plus h by r is equal to, remove the square, that side you will get square root 2, h by r is equal to root 2 minus 1 plus 1, that side, take that side, minus 1. Root 2 is nothing but, what's the value? 1.414 minus 1, that is equal to 0.414. Now h is equal to, take the cross multiplication, r into, this is h by r, right? So h is equal to cross multiplication, r into 0.414 kilometers. Why? Because radius of the earth is given in the problem 6400. If you multiply 6400 with 0.414, then you will get the answer. And this is in this model, nearly 2 to 3 problems are there. If you learn this problem, then based on this problem, like these models, you will get easily. Okay. Another problem. If g on the surface of the earth is 9.8 meter per second square, its value at a depth of 3200 kilometer. It means the question is here, we need to calculate the acceleration due to gravity at 3200 kilometer depth. So I am taking the formula, gd is equal to g into 1 minus d by r. Zd we need to calculate acceleration due to gravity at d depth. G, what's the value? 9.8 into 1 minus d, 3200 kilometers, by r, radius of the earth, 6400 kilometers. Two zeros, 32 ones are 32 twos are. Gd is equal to 9.8 into 1 minus 1 by 2. 1 minus 1 by 2. 1 minus 1 by 2, 1 by 2. So 9.8 by 2, that is equal to, what's the value? 4.9 meter per second square. At d depth, the acceleration due to gravity is 4.9 meter per second square. Okay.